One. What's happening, people, and welcome everybody to In the End Zone UK. Thank you for joining our weekly American football podcast. I'm your host, Dom, and today we'll be looking at the penultimate game week in the NFL. That's week 17. The NFL used to only have 17 weeks and 16 games until this year, where they've introduced a 17th game and therefore an 18th week. I'm cool with that because it gives us more football, and anything that gives us more football is super sweet. But without further ado, let me introduce you to the other half of the In the End Zone team. Across the mic, my co-host is Big Dave. How's it going, Dave?
All good, although the way the Giants are playing at the minute, I wish there was only a 3-game season, so I didn't have to suffer watching the dismal performance that they seem to put on every week.
Mm-hmm. It is not a good time to be a Giants fan, that's for sure.
No,
but we will definitely get to talking about that a little bit later. This week's episode is called Record Playoffs. And the reason for this is because we're obviously approaching a really exciting end of what seems to be a very balanced season in the NFL for the first time in a long time, or at least in the AFC. So there's a lot of potential playoffs and playoff positions for many teams, and there are some big records to be broken in the NFL as well. So some teams are still in with a slim chance to make the playoffs, depending on their circumstances, and some players are in with either slim or very easy chances of breaking some NFL long-standing records. We will get to that in a little segment later on called Record Playoffs. But first, a bit of news, and we're going to talk about a guy that's probably the most spoken about American football player in the last 2 or 3 years, and it is Mr. Antonio Brown. What's going on with this guy, Dave?
He has got extreme brain trauma.
Do you reckon?
I don't know. I mean, he's I've read all about it now, and if what he's saying is true, he's completely within his rights to walk off the field. I mean, he did it the way he did it because it's Antonio Brown, but apparently he's got torn ligaments, like broken bones in his ankle, and he told Bruce Arians that it was too painful for him to go back in. Bruce Arians told him to get on the pitch, otherwise you're being caught. And Antonio Brown said, "Peace out, brother." Threw his kit down, threw some stuff to the crowd, and did one.
Wow. I mean, for the people that have seen it or are not aware, in last week's game week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Antonio Brown currently plays for, or actually no longer plays for, were playing the New York City Jets. And at the time, I believe the Jets were winning. And Antonio Brown, for no apparent reason whatsoever on the sideline, began stripping off, took his jersey off, his pads, his helmet, his kit, and just kept his shorts on and started it wasn't dancing, but it was kind of like skipping along the end zone in just his shorts, threw his kit into the crowd and just did one out of MetLife Stadium. But as Dave said, it seems to be that the Buccaneers were pressuring him to play for an ankle injury, despite him being in some extreme pain. And he basically said that he wasn't going to do it. And so the coach of the Buccaneers said, right, well, if you're not going to play, we don't want you to play for us anymore. And so he bounced out of the stadium. But if that is correct, Dave, like you said, he's well within his rights. The guy is obviously a loose cannon, but what do you believe?
I think he's released the pictures now, the text messages that he sent to Bruce Arians before the game, saying that he'd had an MRI and it had shown all the damage or whatever, and he doesn't feel great.
Right.
And if it's true that they injected him with something that they're not meant to be giving people because it could be dodgy or whatever, I don't know. I reckon it looks at the minute. I reckon it looks worse for the Bucs than it does for Antonio Brown. I mean, someone's going to pick him up, aren't they?
He's like bulletproof. That's the thing.
Yeah,
isn't he?
He's basically said he's going to have ankle surgery now, get it fixed, and we're good to go for next season. Somebody will pick him up.
Get him to the Giants.
We don't need him. We're about getting Odell Beckham.
I'd take him. He's a loopy.
Odell said.
Can you imagine him and DK Metcalf?
Yeah. Apparently, Odell Beckham said if they win the Super Bowl, he's coming back to the Giants. He wants to be in New York.
Is that what he's actually said? Fair. So if he wins the Super Bowl with the Rams, he's going to take his Super Bowl and go back to the Giants.
Yeah, he said he didn't know what he said. He said he wants to be in New York. He's one of so Joe Judge. Not to get into the Giants talk about the Giants now, but after the game, our head coach Joe Judge went on a 11-minute rant about how poor the team's been playing, but how secure it is, how much better it is now behind the scenes.
Right.
So I know the last coach, Pat Shermer, people falling asleep in his meetings and stuff like that, and he's saying that he's got players that are free agents in the summer that are in his office every day begging to re-sign.
Okay.
He's got players that played for him last year that have moved on to different teams that ring him and say they want to come back to the Giants. Right. And he said there's ex-players that he said he wouldn't mention any names, but they ring him asking him to come back to the Giants as well. So I don't know if he's talking shit or he's just trying to save his job, but if that's true, that's good to hear. At least the locker room's in good order.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good locker room guys in our locker room, which is good. We've got Logan Ryan who actively helped recruit Adoree Jackson and other players to the team last year. So
yeah, the Giants seem like they've got a good squad. And even going into this season, not to digress into it too much, but just to finalise, going into the season, I expected far greater from the Giants, and actually on paper, they have and should be operating at a much better quality right now. I guess the issue is that you've not had a healthy starting quarterback for a number of weeks, but we'll get to that because I need to talk about that a little bit later. So we will move into, after talking about Antonio Brown, our ever-loving segment, and whether he catches one in this or not, his antics may have required a cheeky slap, but we're going to go into slap or sign. So we'll start with that and see if you prove me right or wrong, Dave. AFC. Oh no, let's go NFC. Can you hit me with your NFC slap? First one of the segment.
My NFC slap is not going to him. I did think about him. However, I was gonna slap Dak Prescott as well, but I chose otherwise to do that, and I'm gonna slap Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
Which may be a bit strange for people, but
yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott. So the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals, as one predicted.
You did. Very well done. Applause.
Dak didn't play that bad, to be honest with you. I thought, watching it, he looked worse than what he was, but actually, stats-wise, he was pretty efficient. Ezekiel Elliott, on the other hand, rushed 9 times for 16 yards, which is an average of 1.8 yards a carry.
That's pathetic.
He used to be the bell cow. Obviously, they've got Pollard there now as well. He rushed 3 times for 9 yards, so their entire rush game was pathetic. But Ezekiel is their star running back. They paid him as a star running back. I think when they paid him, he was the highest paid running back in the league. And he's had a better season than he did last year, but he's not been great. And to produce 1.8 yards per attempt is pathetic.
That is almost like just falling over with the ball, right? If you're taller than 6 foot and you fall forward, you'll go more than 1.6 yards.
Yeah. So I just don't think he's been that effective. He was dire this week. He had no run game at all. Just relied on throwing the ball, and you don't win in the NFL like that. You need to have a balanced game where you can pass the ball and rush. It's not as if they were, completely chasing the game. They were down at halftime. They were down by 6 points.
Yeah, it's a normal game of football. That is. You don't change your scheme against being down 6 points.
Yeah. And then it looks like they scored 15 points in garbage time, but
fair enough.
He's getting a slap from me.
The little Ewok that is Ezekiel Elliott gets a slap. Yeah. Nice. Okay, and then onto your NFC sign for us then, please.
My NFC sign is a man.
A man. Okay.
He is a man. He is a man by the name of Rashard Penny. I'm signing the running back of the equally woeful Seattle Seahawks.
Equally?
They're slightly better than the Giants, I'll give you that. Just because they put 51 points on the Lions doesn't mean they're that great.
Hey, look, listen, if the Giants had put 51 points on anybody, you'd have been skipping down the street naked.
I wouldn't be here now because I would still be out celebrating.
But yeah, fair enough. So Rashard Penny, our third string running back.
The third string running back had 170 yards. I'm trying to get his stats from this year because in his last 4 games, well, 3 of his last 4 games, he's had over 130 yards. He's had 137 yards, 135 yards, and 170 yards.
Hola.
Which is pretty good, I would say. And 2 touchdowns as well. Well, in that period, he's had 5 touchdowns, which at the minute, I would give anything for a running back that's putting up that kind of. I mean, Saquon did have over 100 yards this week, which is for the first time in a long time. But 170 yards is something else. And I think he deserves. His brother's a giant, so keeping it in the family. Going to sign Rashard Penny.
Nice. Yeah, he's been very, very good for us in the last few weeks, and one of the very few bright sparks for the Seahawks recently. Don't know what that means. You know, the Seahawks have been playing some strange football over the course of the last few games, but Rashard Penny seems to have found some sort of consistency, and if you can tap into something like that, fantastic. It's a shame that we couldn't have tapped into that middle of the season when we actually needed a running back to do something, but you take it where you can get it. I believe that we've declined his 5th-year option. He was a first-round pick for us, so apparently, according to many scouts, or at least the Seahawks scouts, the guy has got the potential, but it's taken 3 years for it to come to fruition. But I hope that we can restructure something and keep him in the house. He's clearly not garbage, and he's got a little bit of burst to him. You got to have to get that amount of yards back to back to back. So yeah, well done, Rashard. Keep pounding that rock, and we'll see if he can finish strong this week against the Cardinals. I hope so, but Cardinals don't look like a team that you can run on. Okay, over to the AFC. Can you give me your AFC sign, please? I think this one might be an absolute no-brainer, but it may depend where you're going with it.
Same place I went last week, Joe Burrow.
Are you going Joey B?
Yeah.
Nice. Back-to-back signs, Dave. Man's bowling.
I do like Joe Burrow a lot. He's had 971 yards in 2 weeks.
Wow.
8 touchdowns and no interceptions.
That's big.
Betting wise, he's moved into 2nd or 3rd, was it? I think it was 2nd behind Aaron Rodgers in the MVP vote.
Wow.
And you can see why when they were like we said, the first pick in the NFL draft last year. They've then pulled it all the way out. So last year and this year they've pulled it out of the bag and gone from first number 1 pick overall to the worst team in the NFL to winning their division and booking a place in the playoffs.
Yep, that's phenomenal. Nearly 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards in 2 games.
Fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, and 8 touchdowns, no picks. If you were to imagine keeping that pace for the season, break every record there was going.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
And I mean, he's been helped along in by Jamar Chase, but wowzers.
Sure. Love that. Joey B gets back-to-back signs, so nice one. I hope he does really well in the playoffs as well, because they're obviously going there. I think that would be even a rematch of the one that we saw this week. And we'll talk about later would be fantastic.
Yeah, and to top it off, a comeback win, I suppose, against the Chiefs, defeating the Chiefs, which is no easy task.
No, reigning AFC champs. Lovely stuff. Okay, and then finally your AFC slap, please, Mr. David.
Baker Mayfield, the man sucks. If he 2 interceptions this week, one which basically sealed the game, so Big Ben got a win at Heinz Beans Field in his last game there, which was pretty good for him because he is a legend. Been to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's good.
When you think about how great Aaron Rodgers is when he's only been to 1 Super Bowl. Big Ben's been to 3. And won 2. So, Baker Mayfield stunk the place up. He's categorically not a quarterback. Well, not a starting quarterback. He's a backup, I think. You're starting to see that. He's struggling to throw the ball, whether he's got shoulder issues or not. I'm not interested. He's had this accuracy problem since he got into the league, and I think it's now starting to show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the week before, giving the ball away 4 times to the Packers, plug in a half decent quarterback into that situation, the Browns probably beat the Packers because they had the opportunities. Yeah. And then this week, it doesn't take a lot to beat Steelers, you know. They aren't great and they still couldn't get it done. So, and it was down to Baker. He's shockingly shit. So he definitely deserves a slap, and the Browns need to quickly reevaluate what they're going to do at quarterback, because you can't roll into the next year with the talent that they've got on their roster and think that they're going to win anything with Mr. Overthrow. He just misses everything. It's mad. Yeah, I don't know what he's actually looking at, or whether his eyes don't match what his arm can try to do, but his passes are wayward, and to think that everyone was blaming Odell.
Strange, isn't it?
Cool. Nice slap. Like it. That's your 4.
Yep. On to you. NFC slap.
My NFC slap will probably be one that you hate the most out of all my slaps this year. And I'm doing a weird thing today. I'm slapping 2 teams, entire teams. But the NFC slap this week is going to the New York Giants. Unfortunately. So I'm slapping the New York Giants. They lost this week, and we'll go into it on the clock, but they lost this week to the Bears. The Bears are shit. The Bears are so shit, but they beat the Seahawks, and then the week after they beat the Giants. And the Giants lost 29-3 against the Bears. They had a -10 net passing yards. It's the lowest in the NFL since 1996. Mike Glennon had 2 interceptions. They had 2 field goals on you, 3 touchdowns, a safety. It was literally everything that could happen in a football game against a team went against the Giants this week. The Bears absolutely rolled, and they shouldn't have been able to. I don't know how they did, because the Giants' defense is generally pretty good, but to concede 29 points and only score 3, it's just such a bad situation to be in. They weren't playing for anything, of course, the Giants, so there was no real urgency to win the game. But to be kind of embarrassed is not good. The Giants have not had a winning season now in 5 years. I kind of expected them to have a winning season this year just because of the quality that they've had. But then you throw Mike Glennon into the mix, and I think that's the mix. That's the problem. Like you said it, you've slapped him enough times, back to back weeks. The guy is so bad. You know, I think he threw for 30 yards, Dave, which is why you ended up with minus net yards, because he was sacked more than he threw. So he's so bad. How can you put a player of that caliber on the pitch and expect to play football? Like it's almost like playing with an amateur against, you know, the Bears aren't good, but they're also obviously NFL caliber players. So they're going to play, and they did, and just destroyed the Giants. And I just was very shocked to see it, because I thought that he might come out of the game with a win.
No, there's no argument that you could put up. They are playing awful. The defense can't do anything. I mean, we had 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, but we're not getting beat by. Yeah, but we're
takeaways.
We're -8 in the last since Daniel Jones went injured. We were positive. I think we were 6th in the league at one point in takeaways.
Yeah,
positive. The last 4 or 5 games, however long he's been out, we're -8 because you've got some bold giraffe-looking motherfucker who I just don't. There must be a reason why they're not signing somebody else. There are any amount of course, you could probably say to Colin Kaepernick, we're going to sign you. We're not going to pay you anything. Yeah, you've got 1 game. What can you do?
Yeah,
and he would be a million times better than this gimp.
Yeah.
He is pathetic. You look at our receiving stats. David Stills had 1 catch for 12 yards. Evan Ingram 1 catch for 12 yards. Devontae Booker 2 catches no yards.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised when he's, when you are in minus net yards, it's embarrassing.
He was 4 for 11.
Yeah, he's terrible.
For 24 yards.
It's terrible. I mean, that's why I'm slapping the Giants. It's mainly because of him, but I didn't want to just slap him because I also thought to get a safety, to only score 3 points, for your defense to give up 29, it just felt like a team collapse. And
it was
so
pathetic. I said that we went to the pub, or we went to Hickory's to watch it, and I couldn't get it on my phone straight away. And the game had been on, I think, 2 minutes. No, it wasn't even 2 minutes. I think it was like 45 seconds of actual game time. And I said, oh, that's long enough for the Bears to score two touchdowns. I was wrong. Yeah. They scored 1 in it.
Yeah.
1 touchdown within the first 45 seconds of the game.
Yeah. It's terrible. So, soz Giants, but I know you'll be better next year, but this year you catch.
Say that. But this is pretty average for it. That's pretty much what we get.
You'll be better next year. So yeah, that's my thing. I'm slapping the Giants. NFC.
Who are you signing from the NFC?
So from the NFC, I've not been able to do this all season, so I'm going for it just because I've got the opportunity to. This week, I'm signing DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks to go along with Rashard Penny, who was signed by Dave, and Russell Wilson could have been signed as well this week with 4 touchdowns and a passer rating of 133. But I went with DK Metcalf. He only had 63 yards receiving, but he had 3 touchdowns through the air. At the start of the game, the commentators were talking about DK Metcalf's persona and just saying that he's looking frustrated. His body language is not great. And, I'm not a huge fan of the way he conducts himself on the pitch a lot of the time. He seems to be a little bit of a big baby, but when it comes down to it, the guy can ball out. And he definitely did. And it was only against the Lions, so I'm definitely not getting too far ahead of myself. But, a receiver to drop 3 tutties in a game where almost everyone had a go is nice to see. And I'm just signing him because I feel like he's not had the best season. He's had Geno Smith throwing at him for 4 of those games, and nobody's going to look great when Geno Smith's throwing the ball. And I think it just gels and cements the fact that DK Metcalf still needs to be accounted for. He may not be that superstar that people were thinking that he could be this year, but he's definitely a top flight receiver that can get open, beat his man. I think every single touchdown he was one-on-one, and he just bullied and blitzed the guy that he was up against. So, yeah, I'm signing DK this week. Good on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly like him. I think he's a bit of a diva, but he reminds me so much of Odell Beckham. Not his size, not the fact that he's a great receiver, because obviously he's a great receiver, but it's the fact that I feel like it's going to take for him the same as it took for Odell, where Odell thought he was the absolute dog's bollocks, and he was untradeable when the Giants traded him because he was a bit of a nightmare. And DK, I think he just needs a bit of like a harsh reality to realise that actually, if Russell Wilson weren't there, he would be struggling like a lot of the receivers are. Ask Kenny Golladay how he feels with fucking Glennon throwing to him.
Yeah,
He's
totally.
got a touchdown all season.
Yeah.
But to get 3 in one game, is impressive. And I mean, I don't know what a receiver wants more. Does a receiver want touchdowns or does he want yards? I think they probably want both, don't they? But
yeah.
Julio Jones is Mr. Yards, Mr. Not Touchdown.
Yeah. I think at this point in the season where Seattle are and how DK's played, I would say that you want the touchdowns just because it's your stat line as opposed to you're not going to get your big yards because you've not had the opportunity. So it's not like he's vying for any records. He's had a fair few touchdowns on the year now. I'm not sure how many, but he must be I'd guess that he's at about 14, maybe. Which is pretty good. So, yeah, I'm signing DK this week anyway. Get on DK.
12.
Okay, I was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, 12's nothing to wipe your nose at, is it?
No, it's alright.
Yeah, no. Good signing. Right, AFC. Who ya slapping, boy?
So slapping from the AFC, another team. So 2 teams are being slapped today. This is hilarious. I'm slapping the Jacksonville Jaguars. My gosh. They are terrible. They got beat by the Patriots 50 points to 10. 50 to 10. Both of these quarterbacks are rookies. One plays for the Patriots. The other plays for the Jacksonville Stinkers. It's unbelievable. To get beat by 50 points is one thing. To only score 10 is another. But their last touchdown, so their 7 points came on, it was the last drive of the game. Up until that point, they'd scored 3 points all game. Unbelievable. The Jaguars are 2-14. 2-14. The Lions, they're 2-13-1. So the Jaguars are the worst team in football again. And
there's a chasm between them 2 teams.
What? As in the Lions are obviously better than the Jags?
Yeah, way better.
Totally. So I'm slapping the Jaguars across the board. Coaching, offense, defense, special teams, you name it, you can score on the Jags. They can't stop anything. I genuinely, this draft is going to have to be an interesting one for them. I don't know, because if I was, most of the time, put me in as GM for a team, I don't know my shit the same way that scouts and GMs do, and same way with you, you'd go, okay, if I was the GM and I'm going into, this team, I know that their weakness is cornerback, and I know that they actually could do with drafting a wide receiver to complement this. I don't know what the Jags need. And I watch football very intently, and I couldn't tell you what would fix the Jags. Put the best corner in the game at the Jags, be fucking crap. Put the best pass rush in the game, they'd be fucking crap.
Well, they 100% need to trade back. There's no way they should be taking a pass rush with a number 1 pick. Not a chance. Yeah. They've got far too many holes. They need to trade that. Imagine what you get for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, true. No, you're right.
Trade back, get a haul of picks over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Because they've got Etienne's going to come back, so they get Etienne and Robinson. So that's a dynamic duo of running backs, which is what anybody needs. Trevor Lawrence obviously isn't that as bad as what his stats are showing. You can't be like a winner all your life and then be like, oh, actually, no, you're shit.
Mm.
So they just need to because they've got good players. They took who's the corner they got from you with hands?
Yeah,
both hands.
Shaquille Griffin.
Yeah, so they've got him and he ain't shit. He's good.
He's not, but he got burnt against us and Geno Smith.
Yeah, but who's his safeties open him? I don't know, but I don't know what their team is. All I'm saying is they need to draft back because at the minute, it's a toss-up between them and the Giants for the worst team in football over the last 5 games.
Which is mental though, because if you look at the team that the Giants got,
we've had the most injuries in football, so I'm not saying that. If you look at side by side, team.
Position for position, yeah.
Oh yeah, we'd piss over probably half the teams in the league, which is not a good team at the minute because everyone's injured. But I don't know. If I was the Jags, I would be going all out to get fucking thingy's brother, John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, Jim in it,
Jim Harbaugh,
the Michigan. I'd be going all out to get him. So you've got a solid coach.
Yeah.
Who used to be a quarterback, who knows about quarterback play, who will make Trevor Lawrence better.
Yeah.
And he's got that knowledge of the players from the college system now. Get them in.
Mm-hmm.
They need to trade back, get as many picks, try and get maybe even a good wide receiver along with a pick for that number 1 pick. Because which team really needs a pass rush?
Seahawks. But we've got no picks, so don't worry about that. There's plenty of teams that would take a number 1 pass rush, isn't there, basically?
Yeah, of course there is. So,
yeah.
I don't even know. I'm just trying to look down the pecking order for it. But there'll be a team that's desperate for a pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
For the Giants, but I don't want to fucking give them our pick. But trade back, get a load of stock, and fucking rebuild. You're in a rebuild. Nobody expects you to be winning. But as luck would have it, you're playing shit, you're going to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
The Giants are playing shit, they ain't going to get it. We're going to end up with like the 5th.
Mm-hmm. Seahawks playing shit, we're not even got one.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jaguars are getting a slap, and it's just so well deserved. They're shit.
Agreed. Who are you going to sign from the AFC?
So my final sign, it was a toss-up, literally coin flip, depending on who you thought was best at in the game. They both play for the same team anyway. So this week I'm signing Jamar Chase. The receiver catching balls from Joe Burrow, the guy that Dave just signed. He had 11 receptions for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs.
Golly.
That's 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if I was going to sign DK for scoring 3 touchdowns, Lord knows I've got to sign Jamar Chase for scoring 3. Difference is Jamar Chase had 200 more yards than DK Metcalf, which is beyond phenomenal for a wide receiver. Absolutely elite. He's catching balls everywhere. He's basically catching jump balls in the end zone, getting his tiptoe feet in. He's catching balls on the run and getting yakety yak yards after catch. He can do everything. He looks immense. And not only does he look immense, but Joe Burrow looks immense. And those two together are an exciting pair. They're like the new-ish Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes with more longevity, not quite as much juice, but maybe just enough savvy to be just as good. And they proved that this week they were better. And actually, as the game went along, I was thinking, this is a game. This is good. And this is good for the Chiefs, because I think that the Bengals beating them in the regular season, if they end up meeting in the playoffs, I do think the Chiefs have their number this time. So I think it would. I think that's the way it would go. It'd be a good narrative. I do believe the Chiefs can beat the Bengals, but they were the better team on the day. They came back from being pretty heavily down, and Joe Burrow just slung that ball to Jamar Chase, and he caught some tasty balls. Like some of them were, I'm not going to say lucky because he's very good, but some of them were 50-50 balls. Some of those would not happen, next week. So he's elite, amazing.
The one where he caught it, it was like, I don't even know if it was like a slant or something, he ran away from the entire, not one person. There was like 7 Chiefs around him, and he ran away from them all. Mm-hmm. He is quick. He's a 200-yard receiving games this season.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He's had 3 100-yard games, which doesn't seem that much, but then that's 5 over 100.
Yeah.
And 13 touchdowns. He's averaging 18 yards a reception.
Wow. Yeah, he's a beast.
Pretty impressive. T. Higgins as well, I think, had a no, he didn't. I'm trying to shit.
He had a good game the week before.
Yeah.
200 plus.
So I think, Burrow's they seem to have found the magic.
They have, definitely.
That I wish my team had.
And that's it. Slap or Sign is done. And now we're going to go through a speedy on the clock. Into the section on the clock, we're going to discuss all the games that were played this week. And we're going to start with the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Green Bay Packers. Now, in this one, Dave, last week, we asked each other who was going to win. I said the Vikings stupidly didn't know that Kirk Cousins wasn't playing, but nevertheless, it was never in doubt, even if he had been playing. The way that the Packers are rolling at the minute. The Packers won 37 to the Vikings 10. Aaron Rodgers, 288 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams. I mean, you watched this one in more detail than I did, Dave, so I'll let you take over. But I remember you shouting out from the room whilst watching it that Devontae and Rodgers were just on some sort of like laser focus this game.
I don't know how Devontae Adams catches. He's so good. I think when we were looking at the start of the season, we were saying what's the difference between a good receiver and like an average one. It's how late they bring their hands up to catch the ball. So the defender who's watching the player doesn't have time to react. If a player's running with his arms outstretched, the defender's going to hack his arms down as soon as the ball hits it because he knows the ball's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Devontae Adams is running with his hands by his side till the ball is over his shoulder and just in front of him. Then he'll put his hands out, catch the ball. He is unbelievable. And Rodgers has got a connection with him like no other. You can only compare. There's no comparison in the league. The Jamar Chase Burrow one is again like a good one like that where Burrow knows constantly where Jamar Chase is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's like the Devontae Adams thing. Like, there's no way on this planet them two are not playing together next season.
Yeah.
At whatever team.
Yeah.
If they came to the Giants, I'm not even kidding you.
You would have a constant erection.
You could trade all the other pieces away. You wouldn't need anybody else on offense, just them two. Not even an offensive line. Devontae Adams is special, man. And so is Rodgers, to be fair to him, as much of a douchebag as he is. He can throw a ball where nobody else he can put it over a defender's shoulder without the defender knowing because Devontae Adams got his hand in his pockets.
Yeah. They are phenomenal.
I just couldn't believe some of the catches, some of the sideline catches. It was just next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Vikings did not look good at all. At all.
Couldn't get the run game going. Dalvin Cook looked distinctly average.
Indeed. So Vikings lose out at the Packers. Packers go to 13-3. They clinch the NFC. They clinch the NFC first round bye. Nobody can catch them now. They are atop of the NFC conference. Vikings fall to 7-9, which I think that is one of the most, not to get into it too much, but the talent that the Vikings have to be 7-9. The Seahawks are 6-10. And we've had a stinker and we didn't have Russell Wilson for 4 games. The Vikings are 7-9. Not in playoffs, not in playoff contentions, and their team is way too good for that. So as we said last week, as a New Year's resolution or whatever it would be, what would you do if you were the Vikings? You get rid of Mike Zimmer and you say, you have not done enough with the skill pieces that you've got on your team. See in a bit. That'd be a great place for a coach to go. You'd love to go to fucking Minnesota if you're a coach.
They're a quarterback short of being a very, very, very good team.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on to a game in the NFC, and this was the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Such a mediocre game, and that's exactly what we saw. Panthers scored 10 points. The Saints scored 18 points. The Saints just edged the Panthers out by 8. Saints go to 8-8 for the season, with still a slim chance to get into the playoffs, and the Panthers fall to 5-11, no playoff potential. Sam Darnold played at quarterback in this one with a few guest appearances from Cam Newton. Taysom Hill played quarterback for the Saints. He had 200 yards and a touchdown, and he also led the team in rushing with 12 attempts. Shock, because that's all he can do when the ball snapped to him. Outside of that, there was absolutely zip to talk about in that game.
Imagine having Alvin Kamara and giving him 13 touches.
Nuts, innit?
What a joke.
Yeah, one of the best running backs in the game, and you've got Taysom Hill dancing around at 12 attempts for 45 yards. He is shit.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the Saints to bin him off. Moving on. We don't need to get into the Taysom Hill debacle as we usually do. The Cardinals in the NFC out of Arizona took on the Cowboys. They went into the Cowboys' house and they got the job done. Cowboys lost 22 to the Cardinals 25. Dave was saying that Dak Prescott didn't have a fantastic game, and he didn't. He obviously lost. But Kyler Murray came in and they won. 263 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. Chase Edmonds had 53 yards and Christian Kirk 79. There was no outstanding performances in this game.
I don't think so.
My side.
Oh, I've just clicked on the Seahawks game by accident. I was trying to look at the defense to see what fucking Matey Boy had done. Parsons, 4 tackles, 1 assist.
Yeah, he didn't do a lot, to be honest.
Trayvon Diggs, no interceptions.
No, there was almost nothing. There was a forced fumble by Isaiah Simmons, which was the only big defensive play of the game.
Greg the Leg missed a field goal. Shock. He's been shit this year as well.
Yes, there really was not a lot to take away from this, other than the fact that this meant that both teams go to 11-5 on the year. Cowboys are winning their division, and the Cardinals look like they're coming second in theirs. And coming second at 11-5 is a little bit tight, but at the same time, the NFC West is no easy place to live. Onto a shitter, but talking of the NFC West, the 49ers played the Houston Texans. The Niners did what they needed to do in this one. They beat the back doors off the Texans, 23 to the Texans 7, and the Niners played Trey Lance in this because Jimmy G was injured, and he had 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, Dave. Not bad. Not bad.
No, I mean, no. He had 31 rush yards as well.
Yeah. That Elijah Mitchell had 120 rush yards, and Rex Burkhead, who had a monster day the week before, came crashing back down to earth on his Burkhead for 16 attempts of 47 yards. Not looking as good this week, are you, Rex? Niners go to 9-7 with playoff hopes. Very slim, but playoff hopes. And the Texans fall to 4-12. One of the worst teams in football. Should be the worst team in football, I think. Should be, but their record says differently. And they're 4-12. They will be in the mix for one of the top picks next year. On to AFC. Broncos took on the Chargers. The Chargers won this one 34-13. Drew Lock had 245 yards for the Broncos, but Justin Herbert had 237 and 2 touchdowns. Austin Eckler, a touchdown. Mike Williams, touchdown. This was the Chargers just finding some sort of form within their division and giving themselves potential playoff hopes by winning this game.
Yeah. That is such a tight division, isn't it?
It is very tight.
11-5, 9-7, 9-7.
Yeah. And then 7-9, yeah?
Yeah, 7-9, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there's 3 that could be all over the place in that one. But the Chargers did what they need to do. Looks like they may head into the playoffs. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As we mentioned earlier, the Antonio Brown absolute crazy scenario in the Buccaneers against the Jets. Buccaneers won this one against the Jets, but it was so tight. It was such a clutch finish. If you want to see clutch, if the definition of clutch should have been this final drive, or should be in the dictionary a video of this final drive of the Buccaneers against the Jets. Tom Brady, Mr. Goat, the goatee of the Buccaneers, drove down that pitch like he was in a Lamborghini with Chamillionaire popping, they see me rolling, and he just threw that ball everywhere it needed to go to the final play of the game, which was essentially a walk-off tutty. And he almost went into like God mode against the Jets. I feel like in his head he was like, the Jets could beat us right now, and he just turned into Thanos and just threw for a touchdown. He had 410 yards and 3 touchdowns, Dave. That's a quiet 410 yard game.
It is when you're being beat, and they were being beat the entire game.
Yeah, it's not.
I reckon he didn't even know the score. I reckon he was just like, I'm going out for a drive now, and then looked at the score and was like, shit. He took the ball 91 yards, I think it was, in like a minute. Yeah. Didn't use any timeouts, didn't run the ball out of bounds, didn't spike the ball, just snap, pitch, snap, pitch, snap, pitch, snap, touchdown.
How good is he?
Walked on.
How good is he?
He's just so like,
he's unbelievable.
I don't know, he's just turbo. He's not Eli Manning clutch because he did do it in the Super Bowl twice, but he is clutch.
Tom Brady is Mr. Clutch. They should get that picture on the Mr. Clutches in Nottingham. Just Tom Brady like this. Big sort of like tranny lesbian looking face. And the best thing about it was that, as you said, he didn't even take any timeouts or spike the ball. Like, I was watching it and I was saying it as you do. You're just like, yeah, go on then, Brady. Now spike the ball. You know, as you're watching the play, and he was just going up to the line of scrimmage, calling it, and you're like, shit, man, that's how.
He didn't even do that, did he? He was just stood in the shotgun, like waited. The line got down. Yeah, okay, whatever his little cadence is. Snap the ball, throw it to the right. Snap the ball, throw it to the right. So it was like the same play 3 times. They couldn't stop it.
They couldn't stop anything.
And the Jets should know, like, what Tom Brady's doing. They've played him for 20 years. Yeah. You know what plays he's going to play.
Yeah. It's one thing knowing it, though. It's another thing stopping it, isn't it? When you're the Jets.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I call a timeout, then they have time to get set. So I'm just going to rely on the fact that they're all shit and I'm a god.
Yeah.
And then just pooped on every single one of them.
He did. He absolutely did. He's so immense. Like, so immense. It's like having a coach on the pitch in a body that can throw a football.
That's why the Saints are in turmoil now, because they've not got that.
No.
They've had Drew Brees literally running the show for the last 10 years, and now they haven't got it, and they're in absolute bits.
Mm-hmm. So the Buccaneers got the clutch win. They go to 12-4, looking like they're not invincible, but still a powerhouse. And the Jets fall to 4-12. Absolutely shocking. Zach Wilson, though, he did all right against a Buccaneers defense, which is not an easy defense to go against. He had 234 yards and a touchdown. So Gronk came up big. He had 115 yards, but when Brady's in trouble, that's where he goes.
Yeah.
So on to the other game in the NFC, which was quite an important one for playoff potential, and that was the Eagles taking on the Washington Windsox, or football team, which is soon to be announced with its actual name. Have you seen that, Dave?
Yeah.
That they're announcing it in about a month's time or something. They're going to give the Washington football team a real name, but for the moment they are still, and probably forever will be, the Windsox to us. But the Eagles got the job done. It was a tight game. They won 20 to the Windsox 16. Jalen Hurts, 214 yards, no touchdowns. But Boston Scott had a couple of easy run-ins with 2 touchdowns, and the Washington football team just couldn't get enough going to beat the Eagles. And then to top it all off, I think the Washington football team stadium just started to collapse at the end of the game and nearly crushed Jalen Hurts, which would have been hilarious, by the way. Yeah,
because he's a fucking knob. Cannot stand that bloke at all.
No. We go to the AFC and we go to the Dolphins. We go to the Titans. The Dolphins taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Dolphins were on an 8-game winning streak that got well and truly bubble burst against the Titans. They lost 3 to the Titans 34. Titans are weird, man. Titans are weird for me. They are sitting at the top of the AFC. And I just don't know how they got there. I feel like they're still riding this wave that was the unstoppable force that was Derrick Henry, and they're just still channeling it into their wins. It's weird. They're not really a great. They obviously are, but to me, without Derrick Henry, they're such an average-looking team, don't you think? But they win.
I don't know. I mean, they've activated him off the IR. He practiced this week. They're getting Derrick Henry back for the playoffs, yeah.
Wow. That changes things for the Titans.
Yeah, because imagine a fresh one. You could probably give him 40 carries a game and he was just going to steamroll people.
Yeah. 100%. So the Titans go to 11-5, Dolphins 8-8, and welcome back Derrick Henry. I feel like what the Titans, and it is totally true, it feels like when you watch the Titans at the moment, they shouldn't be called the Titans. They should have a random name like, I don't know, the Timothys or something, because without Derrick Henry, the Tim Nice but Dims, but like without Derrick Henry, it feels like they've got no, what's the word I'm looking for? They've got like no character, no backbone, no structure.
They've got no identity,
heart.
have they?
That's it. No identity. That's the word I was looking for, Dave. Dave, the human thesaurus. But yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like the Titans have got absolutely no identity, but if they're still winning, fair play to them. And they beat a Dolphins unbeaten streak, which totally just eradicates the Dolphins from being relevant now.
Yeah.
And that's that. And on to the next one. We go to the Raiders taking on the Colts, and this one did not go the way I expected it whatsoever. The Raiders kept their hopes alive. The playoff hopes were hanging in the balance, and the Colts just choked in this one. I think they have got such an easy way about them, the Colts. If you just run it down people's necks, Wentz doesn't have to do a lot. I feel like they could have taken the Raiders to school, but somehow and some way it just didn't work, and the Raiders managed to edge the win. They beat the Colts 23-20, and they're both now sat at 9-7, both with playoff hopefuls. Yeah, Derek Carr did what he needed to do. Your silence with that one, Dave, says you don't want to talk anything about the Las Vegas Raiders. So
I just don't know. I just don't understand how the Colts can be so distinctly average with such a great team.
Yeah,
it's like it's literally Jonathan Taylor. If you don't carry us, we're not winning.
Yeah.
So do us a favour, get 150 yards, so we don't have to give Ginger Bollocks the chance to throw the ball because he's going to fuck it up.
Definitely. And I mean, Jonathan Taylor had 108 yards in this one, which is not enough, clearly.
No. They're a quarterback short. They'd be so much better with Derek Carr. Yeah,
they would. Yeah.
So much better. Kirk Cousins. Stick Kirk Cousins in there, they'd be so much better.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And the Raiders,
yeah.
Sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu. Yeah, so the silence but golden with the Raiders, we don't need to talk about them. They're not relevant. If they do make the playoffs, it's not a relevant playoff berth, so forget about that. The Rams, the powerhouse in the NFC West, the powerhouse in the NFC, bar the Green Bay Packers, took on the not so powerful Baltimore Ravens. And in this one, the Rams just edged a win in a scrappy game against the Ravens, 20 to the Ravens 19. Matt Stafford started this game having a horrendous day, threw numerous picks, lost a fumble. Basically, the Ravens were doing everything they could and put themselves in a great position to win this one. But instead, the Rams charged back late with 13 points in the fourth quarter. Cooper Kupp still doing bits, just shy of 100 yards. Matt Stafford had 309 and 2 touchdowns. And the Ravens still rolling with their backup quarterback. They couldn't get the job done against a stifling Rams defense.
5 sacks. 5 sacks for the Rams.
It's not bad, is it?
No.
Take 5 sacks. It's not quite the Steelers 9 that they had this week, but we'll get on to that one. So we've spoke about this game in relative detail, and this is the Chiefs taking on the Bengals. The Kansas City Chiefs, 11-5, sat atop of the AFC, and no, they didn't. Sorry, just below the Titans, and the Bengals sat top of their division. Went at it, hammer and tong. Mahomes had 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joe Burrow had 446 and 4. So the young rook takes, I'm not going to call Mahomes a veteran because he's not yet, but he takes the superstar MVP, Super Bowl winner to school in this one. And the Bengals show that they can hang with the best of them. Joe Burrow, 446, Jamar Chase, 266. They were too high octane for the Chiefs to contain. And the Chiefs defense, for the first time in a fair few weeks, looked like it could concede a lot of points, and it did.
Yeah. We've talked about it, haven't we? I think Burrow just had that connection sometimes where you do with that wide receiver that just doesn't at all seem to drop a pass.
Yeah.
But they did what they needed to do against the Chiefs. And I think it just shows that they can hang with them if it comes to slinging contests, that they've got a good wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm.
And even their tight end's good. What's his name?
Uzama.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not bad, is he?
He's pretty good as well. So I think he's not Travis Kelce good, is he? But he's a young up-and-comer.
But their running back's better than what the Chiefs have got going as well, aren't they? Joe Mixon.
He's at a really good
class. Yeah, really, really good. He needs a Madden rating boost, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, We spoke about this one too in the slap or sign, and it was the Jacksonville Jaguars getting the ass beat off them by the Patriots. Jacksonville scored 10 points, seven of those in the final play of the game. The Patriots just constantly put up points after points after points, beating the Jaguars by 50. Mac Jones had 3 touchdowns, 227 yards. Stevenson, running back, had 2 touchdowns. Elijah Mitchell had 2 touchdowns. Basically, it was, if you fancy a score against the Jags, here's the ball. They could have given it to some old 70-year-old bloke in the stands, I reckon, and he'd have had one. Absolutely nuts. And Trevor Lawrence, albeit, well, no, not albeit, I'm giving him props here because I can see the number 1 against his name in touchdowns, which I've not seen for a number of weeks, but he had 1 touchdown and 193 yards. I think 90 of those came on the final drive.
They've got to be leading the league in like team points. They've had they've scored 50 points twice this year.
Yeah, that's nuts.
They've scored 54 against the Jets. They're a shitter. It's 45 against the Browns, 36 against the Titans, 33. Yeah. Oh no, that's the Bills, and then 50 against the Jags. They're playing the Dolphins.
Big points, isn't it?
Yeah,
big
massive.
points. Big points. So the Patriots are definitely scary to play in the playoffs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to go against Mr. Bill Belichick in the playoffs, no matter who you are. And I think in the current standings, I think the first game is the Patriots-Bills. So it'll be the 3rd time they've played each other this year. And that, to me, plays into Bill Belichick's hands, personally.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of the Bills, we go to the Bills. Bills taking on the Falcons. Bills won this one, 29 to the Falcons, 15. Bills did what they needed to do. They needed to stay relevant. They needed to stay near the top of the AFC. With this, they went to 10 wins and 6 losses. The Falcons dropped to 7-9. Bear in mind that the shoddy Falcons, who are not worth the salt, are 7-9, and that's what the Vikings are. So say what you will about both of those teams, but it does not look good for either. Devin Singletary, somebody put 50p in him. He had 110 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Bills. Josh Allen had 120 yards, and that was it. No touchdowns. It was a bit of a defensive flurry by the looks of things from the Bills. They shut the Falcons down to 15 points. Kyle Pitts is doing okay, but he's kind of fell off the stat sheet recently. Although he only needs about 60 yards this week. And if he gets that, he'll have the most amount of receiving yards for a rookie tight end in NFL history. So kind of hope he gets that one because he's the only bright spark in the Falcons world. And that's where we're at. So that's the Falcons. And we move to a game that was played very recently, and that was the Browns taking on the Steelers. It was played just the other night on Monday, and the Steelers managed to get a win against the stinky Browns. The very recently slapped Baker Mayfield lost 14 to the Big Ben Roethlisberger, probably his last game ever at Heinz Field, 26-14. Steelers win 26-14. Steelers go to 8-7-1. The Browns fall to 7-9. That's 7-9, the same as the shitty Falcons, the same as the Vikings. It's not good for the Browns when they were Super Bowl playoff bound last year, and it all comes crumbling down because of Baker. What I have to say about this game, though, is that the Steelers did win 26-14, but it was one of the worst showings of quarterback prowess that I've ever seen in my life. Big Ben threw the ball 46 times. He had 24 completions for 123 yards. That man threw for 2.7 yards a throw. I don't know how that's physically possible when you're throwing a ball forward. Please tell me, Dave. How the fuck does that happen? Because that
straightforward. They're all
it was
swing
the statistically worse game of any quarterback to throw that amount of passes in NFL history. So no quarterback has ever thrown 40, is it 45? I think he threw 46 passes. No quarterback has ever thrown that amount and only had 123 yards. It was the statistically worst game of Big Ben's entire career. And that was the game that he's got to go out on.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a chance this week to try and improve 123 yards. And the star of the show was obviously Najee Harris of 188 rush yards. For him, finally, the game where I'm intrigued to see how many carries he's had and where that ranks in the league. But
so he had 28 carries in that game, which is still a lot.
296 this season.
See, I'm not a massive fan of Najee Harris, and I would claim that the star of this game was Mr. TJ Watt.
Yeah, definitely on defense. He's 4 sacks. He's 4 sacks and 5 tackles.
Unbelievable. 4 sacks.
The man's an animal. And he will rightly, because he's going to dismantle the Ravens defense this week. He's 100% breaking that sacks record, but we'll go on to that later. Oh yeah, he's got to, isn't he?
So TJ Watt has had 51 sacks since 2019 when he entered the league. 51. The next best, so he's had 51. The next best, bearing in mind, you've got, since he's been in the league, I think you've had Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. They've not been here quite as long. Who else? Danielle Hunter, Jadeveon Clowney, you name it. So he's had 51. What do you reckon the next best is, Dave? Next closest.
To 51 over that period? In that period? Or
yeah. Since 2019 to now, he's had 51 sacks. What do you reckon the next best is? So Aaron Donald, the next best player.
Is it Aaron Donald, is it?
No, I don't know if it is, but I think it might be.
I was going to say Shaquille Barrett.
It could be him.
26.
So, yeah, it's a slightly bit more than that, but he's had 51. The next best is 38.5.
Who is it?
Yeah, I don't know who it is. It's just next best is 38.5.
Oh,
so you're talking at least 13 sacks better than anybody else in the league. That's nearly a sack a game better than anybody else since that time. And that's that. And those are like the best players. Imagine how many more sacks he's had than frickin' like Fletcher Cox or some shit. Like it's unbelievable. So I mean, they're different players, but you know, he's just an animal, absolute animal. So
Donald.
Is it Aaron Donald? Is it?
I was close though with Barrett. Barrett's 37.5.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So
nice.
Watt with 51, Donald with 38.5, Barrett 37.5, Garrett 37. Then Cam Jordan.
Oh, okay.
Trey Hendrickson.
Oh, what a baller. Go on, Trey.
Robert Quinn.
And yeah, so that's it. And that takes us to the end of that. I mean, yeah, the Steelers have kept themselves in playoff contention with that win. They need a few things to go right for them to get there. Maybe Big Ben gives himself a last playoff run. But hopefully not after that poor performance. But go TJ Watt. We go to the Seahawks taking on the Lions. This one was a nothing game. It meant nothing to both teams, but the Seahawks did win this 51 to the Lions 29. I am not going to sit here and gloat because it is the Lions. They have now finished, or they will finish 2-13-1. They may get one more win before the season's out, but it's a pathetic record. The Seahawks go to 6-10 with that win, which actually, if you look at the fact that the Eagles are making the playoffs at this point in time at 9-7, and the Seahawks are 6-10, just goes to show how important it would have been to have Russell Wilson and him not be injured for the 4 games that he was injured for, and how much of a difference that could have made. Because let's say he won 3 of those 4 games, and we go to 9-11, that would have took us to the playoffs.
You'd have played 20 games, so it definitely would have took
not 9 and 11. That would have made us 9 and
9. No, 9 and 8.
9 and 8. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shit, my maths is terrible. But 9 and 8 would have took us to the playoffs. All four teams from the NFC West would have gone to the playoffs in that situation, which at the start of the season, I do remember you saying like was possible. So, it's a shame that it's not, but you know, I sit there at 6-10 and there's many questions to go into the off season in Seattle. But in this game, Russell Wilson threw for 236 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had a phenomenal game, great passer rating, just showed exactly what he could do with the ball, didn't need to do too much, dropped dimes into DK Metcalf's hands, dropped dimes into Tyler Lockett's hands, fed the ball to Rashard Penny, who got signed by Dave for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. Our defense didn't really come to play as it normally doesn't, but we still got a big win, 51 points against the Lions. The Lions don't look good. They've got one bright spark in their team at the moment, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He looks like he could be pretty decent. He's had a good stretch of games. I think I saw a record of his. I think he is the first player in NFL history, first rookie in NFL history to have 5 games running with 9 receptions or something like that. Weird stat, but they're obviously finding ways to utilize him, and yeah, he looks all right.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're fighting. They're putting up 30 points at this stage. When I mean, you're getting you've been absolutely dumped on by having a 50 bugger dropped on you, but to score 30 points, man, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. So the Seahawks get the win, and they go into one more game against the Cardinals this week, and then we finish the season. But fair play to the boys. They showed that they've got the capacity to put some points on a bad team, and that's what good teams do. And then,
not only good teams do that, but bad teams can do that to even worse teams.
Yeah.
Which I think segue in from that game into the Giants game, where the Giants got, I don't want to say blown out because I feel that's not harsh enough. The Bears dropped a nuclear bomb straight down on the Giants' heads. So we went into Soldier Field and just got obliterated by the Bears. The Bears won 29 points to 3. We've already spoke about it, so I'm not going to dwell on the fact that Mike Glennon is the worst quarterback in the history of the NFL. I don't even know if we've got a bright spot. Saquon Barkley at 100 yards, that's probably a bright spot. He returned to the place where he tore his ACL last season. I don't even know what to say. We were awful. We deserve at this point to have probably the number 2 pick in the draft. But because we did win some games at the start of the season, that's not going to fall to us. We're probably looking about the 5th or 6th pick, which is, it's far too often now that's the pick that we've been given. I think since I've been following the Giants, we've picked outside the top 10 once. That was last year.
It's mad enough.
And we traded back out of it. Something needs to change. I'm going to save my entire rant and what the Giants should do for next week when we wrap up the regular season, because that's the last time we'll be talking about the Giants for this year anyway, because there's less than 0 chance. There's more chance of me going to watch a playoff game, which isn't going to happen, than the Giants getting to the playoffs because they're out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a couple of sacks, a couple of interceptions, but it was just a poor performance. The game was over within the first 45. When I saw the interception that was thrown, the sack and the fumble, it honestly makes me feel so bad for Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
That if the quarterbacks that are replacing him are getting strip sacked, it must be because our offensive line is so garbage that we can't stop anybody, and it's happening. They get sacked so many times. But yeah, Jaden Smith had a sack who we picked up from the Well, the Cowboys released him, didn't they? And the Packers then signed him and then released him and then we signed him.
Mm-hmm.
He had 7 tackles and 1 sack. Lorenzo Carter had a sack. He's had a good couple of weeks. I think he's had a couple of sacks. Let me see how many sacks he's had. He's had 4 sacks in the last 3 games and 2 forced fumbles. So he's starting to come on a little bit. He's been plagued by injuries. But yeah, there's nothing. I don't want to dwell on it too much. We got beat. We're a bad team, and we're hopefully going to get better.
You definitely will. It's just a shame, like that performance, which is why they got a slap from me, is just nothing. Like there's nothing you can take from that that's a positive, other than like you say that Daniel Jones is just in a bad situation at the moment, and hopefully, as that situation improves, this draft, some offensive linemen to protect him, maybe just another piece, on defense to help you secure that on up. I don't think you need skill position players. You may need to draft a running back, perhaps. If Saquon's not going to be the man that he once was, but I don't think you even need to explore that this year.
No, well, even if you do, you can pick them up. I think they're all the same.
Yeah,
you've got the special ones, the Dalvin,
Derrick Henrys,
the Derrick Henrys, the ones that have got this ability to just switch it on and go. But you look at the teams now. Where's James Robinson drafted? There's so many running backs that are in the league that are 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round picks that do all right.
Yeah.
Don't want to waste a good pick on one. We've already done that.
Yeah, true. So you'll hopefully be better off. And I can't see the Bears being much better in their current situation. So good night to the Bears. And that finishes our On the Clock segment and takes us into our section of the week, which is our record playoffs. So, Dave, we're going to play a simple game of yes or no. Record playoffs, are you ready?
I think so.
I said a simple game of yes or no.
See what I did there?
I saw what you did there, Dave. You're a clever man. But I'm going to first give you some of the records that can potentially be broken. I want you to tell me if they can or can't be. Simple as that. So the first one is a huge record to be broken. This current record is held by Mr. Calvin Johnson. People may not know his name because they may know that he used to be named Megatron. That was his nickname. Megatron, Calvin Johnson for the Lions. He currently holds the record for most receiving yards in the NFL with 1,964 yards, and this was done in 2012. Cooper Kupp enters this week's game against the 49ers with 1,829. He will need 136 yards to break the record held by Megatron. Will he do it, Dave?
136 yards.
That's what he needs. He needs 136 to break it.
Yes.
He's a betting man. You think he's going to get 136 yards?
They'll make it. They'll make sure he gets it.
Do you reckon?
100%.
Okie dokie.
He's got the quarterback that got Megatron his record, throwing the ball to him. So I'm going to say yes. Yes,
he has. But do you risk injury going into the playoffs when they're playing for nothing?
I mean,
they're playing for nothing. They're in the playoffs. It's done.
They're still playing for seeding though.
They're playing to win. If
they win,
if they win,
have the Packers beat them?
I can't remember what this is. But they can't get the number 1 seed in the NFL. All they're playing for this week is to win the top of the NFC West.
What so if they win, and the Packers are 13-3 though. So how can't they? They're 12-4. Packers are 13.
So they must have a tiebreaker because the Packers have clinched it.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So all they're playing for is to win the NFC West. If they win and the Cardinals win.
Yeah, you 100% you still play your best players because there's something at stake in there. There's positioning at stake.
Okay.
By finishing second, you're going to play the second worst team in the NFC. So I say yes.
Okay.
Yes, cool. You can.
All right. Cooper Kupp, you need 136 to beat Megatron. Such totally different players and receivers and body types and everything else. But fair play to Cooper Kupp. And fair play to Matt Stafford. Next record to be broken. current holder of this record is Mr. Michael Strahan. He had 22 and a half of these in 2001, and this record is for most sacks in an NFL season. 22 and a half sacks. TJ Watt has gotten himself within 1 sack of tying Strahan's record. He needs 2 to beat it, or even 1.5 to beat it. Will he do it, Dave?
Again, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
I think he got 3 sacks last time he played the Ravens. So their left tackle is like having me stood there.
He's going into the final boss to come out with a record. It's
annoying because Strahan, for me, is obviously a Giants legend. So, and we don't hold many records.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say yes, he can, because I think he's going to be on a mission to do it, isn't he? And
he's going to be a man possessed.
A lot of these, the people are going to be in position. The destiny's in his hands, isn't he? He's got to beat that. He's literally got to beat him once to tie the record.
Yeah. Okay, TJ Watt's going to take the record. You heard it here first. On to the next. The current record holder of this one is Drew Brees. Drew Brees, in 2016, had 471 completions in a season. Tom Brady enters Sunday's game with 456. He needs 16 more completions to break Drew Brees' record. Will he win the record of most completions in a season, Dave?
16?
He needs 16.
It's Tom Brady, ain't Big Ben. He's going to get 60 completions, yes.
Yeah? I think that's house money, that is. Yeah, I think you're right. Brady basically has completed 18 or more passes in every game this season.
This ain't Mac Jones playing the Bills, you know what I mean? Let's get real.
Yeah, Brady's gonna beat it because he wants to, and that's it. Even if he has to throw 9 or half of his passes 2 yards forward to a running back, he's going to do it. So Brady can take that record from Drew Brees, and he will have yet another one of the many records that sit in his possession. Next one is most sacks, but by a rookie. So the most sacks by a rookie, the current record holder is Javon Kearse with 14 sacks in 1999. Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys can beat this record. He's sat at 13 sacks. 1 game left. He needs 1 to tie it, 2 to break it. Will he do it, Dave?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
They're playing the Eagles, yeah?
Yeah.
The Eagles have got a good, strong offensive line. They've got a mobile quarterback. Yeah. And this game will mean enough to the Eagles, I think, that they stop him getting it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say no.
Cool.
And the Cowboys suck ass. as a side note.
Okay, and then 2 more. Most receptions by a wide receiver. This one is currently held by Mr. Michael Thomas for the Saints. In 2019, he had 149 receptions. Cooper Kupp currently has 138. He'll need 12 catches in that Rams game. Will he do it? I can give you some more information on this.
What's he averaging a game? Catches?
I don't know what he's averaging, but Cooper Kupp most recently had 13 catches of 15 targets against the Cardinals in week 14.
I don't think he'll do that. Oh, I don't know, 12's a lot.
It is.
So I'm going to say he's not going to beat that. Because I think as soon as he gets 130 yards or whatever,
he'll be gone.
He's playing with Matt Stafford. He's not playing with Drew Brees, who's a Michael Thomas is pure slant boy, isn't he? So
yeah.
He's not going to be running slants. He's not aiming to get receptions. He's aiming to get yards. I reckon a lot of his plays will be downfield. So I'm going to say no, he's not going to.
Okay. All right. So it's 2 yes, 2 no, or 3 yes, 2 no? And then the last one, this would be a tough one. And if he does it, it's monumental. Most interceptions in a season. Current record holder is, his nickname was Night Train Lane. 1952, he had 14 interceptions. At the moment, Trayvon Diggs needs 3 interceptions to tie it or 4 to break it.
Not a chance in hell. I mean, he's playing a quarterback that can barely throw the ball, so there is a chance. It'd be interesting to see how many he threw. Hold on a minute, listeners. While I dig into my statistician book. Good Google.
I mean, Trayvon Diggs is doing very well to have the amount of interceptions he's got, but to go from 11 to 14, interceptions aren't the same as sacks. They're not in your control. If people don't throw your way, you don't get the opportunity. Interestingly enough, though, for the listeners, whilst Dave's doing his stats, Trayvon Diggs has actually given up the most yards in the NFL as a corner in his position. So he's had many interceptions, but he's also been beat a lot. So interceptions are obviously a good thing and they turn the tide because it's a change of possession, but it doesn't mean that he's particularly amazing at football. Just means that he can catch a ball.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say that he's not going to do it. He got 1 interception in that game. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown an interception in the last 2 games.
Okay.
And he's 16-9, I think I just saw 16-9 this season. So I'm going to say no. That's
he needs 3 picks. It's not gonna happen.
To tie it, when it's 3 to tie it,
3 to tie it, 4 to beat it. So it's not gonna.
Imagine if that bloke played today. If he's getting 14, how many interceptions did he have back in the
14,
day?
14.
If he had 14 back in the day when they didn't throw the ball, he must have
Night Train Lane.
Yeah, like Flipper who's got the single, what's his name? Flipper Anderson in it, the one who's got the most receiving yards in a game.
Yeah.
For the Rams. But,
okay, so that's the records. You've locked them in, Dave. We'll see what happens and we'll keep track of those on our Instagram page. Now for playoff berths, gonna go through these real quick. The Ravens, they need to I'll start again. The Ravens can make the playoffs if the Ravens win against Pittsburgh, the Chargers lose, the Colts lose, and Miami lose. They need all of that to come into play. They're currently 8-8.
Who are the Colts playing?
I don't know. Jacksonville.
So no. The answer to that question is no.
Yeah. Ravens don't make the playoffs.
Nope.
Okay. On to the Colts. The Colts make the playoffs if they win or tie, and they're playing Jacksonville, so you could probably answer the question right now. Or if the Chargers lose and Baltimore and Pittsburgh tie, or if the Chargers lose and the Steelers lose and Miami win.
So they just need to beat the Jags or tie the Jags.
Ultimately, they just need to beat the Jags, and it's in their hands.
The Colts will be in the playoffs.
Cool. The Las Vegas Raiders. So the Vaders can win and go into the playoffs if. Oh wow! They can go into the playoffs just by winning. So they can win, or they can tie and the Colts lose, or the Colts lose and Pittsburgh lose. But if they win and they're playing the Chargers, they go into the playoffs.
I'm going to say... Winning they're in, losing you're out.
Winning they're in, yeah.
No, I'm going to have some faith. I'm going to have some faith in the Raiders. I reckon they can beat the Chargers. I reckon the Raiders beat the Chargers and make the way to the playoffs.
Okie dokie. Well, then that answers the next one, which is the Chargers, and that is the Chargers are playing the Raiders. They've got a chance. They have to win or tie. That's the only way they can go in. If they win or draw.
I think they're going to win.
Dave's playing the odds.
Right on both sides. Okay, the Chargers are going to lose.
Okay, so the Chargers don't make the playoffs. The Vegas Raiders do.
A poetic ending to this, not an ending to their season, but a poetic end to the regular season for them, which has seen them fire their coach, who's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Their owner's a weirdo. He looks like a weirdo, doesn't he?
He does.
There were 2 players done for like drink driving. One killed somebody.
Yeah.
And I think Derek Carr probably deserves it for getting him to at least getting him in contention.
No, you're right. Probably does.
Poetic.
Probably does. Poetic justice. And the Steelers can still make the playoffs. They can clinch a playoff berth if they win and the Colts lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Vegas Raiders and Chargers game doesn't end in a tie.
There is no way on God's green earth that I want to see Big Ben ever again throw a football. So I'm going to say no.
Okay, cool. And then that's all the AFC. That's how complex the AFC is. That they're all AFC teams. Do you want to hear what the NFC is?
Yeah.
Okay. Niners can go to the playoffs if they win.
Who are they playing? The Rams.
The Niners are playing the Rams.
So the Niners aren't going to go to the playoffs.
Okay, hold on. So actually there is a caveat to that. The Niners win and they go through. Or New Orleans lose.
So the Saints are playing the Falcons. The Falcons are absolutely beating the Saints.
Do you reckon?
100%, yeah.
So San Francisco.
So the Niners are going to get in
to the playoffs
via Matty Tepid Water.
Yes. Go on, Niners. So the Niners go in. And then finally, on the flip side, the Saints. The Saints can go into the playoffs if they beat the Niners and if the Niners lose. Sorry, the Saints can go to the playoffs
I know what you mean, yeah.
if they beat Atlanta and the Niners lose.
No, I do think the Niners lose because I think the Rams will want to win.
Yeah.
And the Falcons, I've just got a feeling the Falcons are going to win. So it's a divisional game. The Saints there's no way Taysom Hill's winning 2 games on the bounce.
No chance. Okay, good stuff. Well, that's it. That's the.
What about the Giants? The Giants and the Seahawks. What about
the Giants can make. Oh no, there is one here. The Giants can make the playoffs if a time machine can be created. They can go back to the start of the season and they can sign Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams for all 3 of their first round picks this year. They enter the season then 0-0 and finish the season 17-0. What's the chances?
I'm going to get working on that time machine.
Exactly. So yeah, nice.
There's an easier way.
Cheers.
If all of the teams above them opt out, by default, the Giants make the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe they could go spiking everyone with COVID.
Don't tempt me.
Cool. Right. That is the end of that section, which was record playoffs. Simple game.
A little bit more than yes or no.
It wasn't quite as simple as I had planned, but do you know what? We still came out the other side of it. So now, quickfire scores, games on Sky Sports for those who are watching in the UK and have only got access to Sky Sports because you don't pay through the nose like me and Dave do for the NFL app. The games that you can watch this week are the Denver Broncos taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Dave, hit me the score.
31 to the Chiefs, 7 to the Broncos because Drew Lock has a mare, 3 interceptions.
That's a beating. I think the Chiefs win this one 20 to the Broncos 13. Next one, divisional game, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. Your most hated game on paper.
Oh, it is, that is. Were they playing?
It looks like I'm not too sure. It doesn't really say it very well here for me. I think they're playing in Philadelphia.
Okay. the Eagles win 21.
I paused for effect there, Dave.
21-20.
Okay, 21-20. That's a tight one. That's what she said. And I'll go Dallas Cowboys win this one emphatically before the playoffs begin. I say the Cowboys take Philadelphia down 27-17. Oh, the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing the Indianapolis Colts for playoff contention. Hit me with a score, Dave.
The Jags win. Going against everything that I've said. I'm going for a miracle win for Trevor Lawrence. I'm talking shit. The Colts are going to win, and they're gonna win 28-3.
Buzzing. 28-3. I wouldn't object against that, except I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will just be throwing the ball because they won't give a shit anymore. I think, Jacksonville will score 13 points, and I think the Colts will score 23. LA Rams, San Francisco 49ers, playoff contention for the Niners, Rams to take the NFC West.
I think if the Niners are playing Trey Lance, they're gonna get smoked because he's gonna try and throw the ball to keep up with Matt Stafford. He's gonna get in front of interceptions. So I'm gonna say the Rams win 24-12.
Nice. I think the Rams win 33 to the Niners 20. And that's
Sweet.
it.
Sweet.
That's all she wrote. That's the end of this poddy. It's the end of podcast number 18. And just want to say a massive thank you for everybody who has listened all the way through. As usual, please like, share, follow our social media pages, and make sure you spread the word of In the End Zone UK. This is the penultimate week of the regular season. We will still be coming at you in the playoffs. We'll have many, many pieces of news to go through. But for now, this one has been Record Playoffs. Take it easy. Catch you soon.
See you later.